Yeah, and it's so interesting because, whether you're selling in person or teaching in person, it's always different. It's always a learning opportunity. And every time you do that, you take some lessons away that you apply to the next time that you do it. And so it just always feels like a really rich, really valuable way to spend time. And then you can get better at it. And so I enjoy that whole learning process as well.
Welcome to Peak Pyrography, the woodburning podcast, where we discuss artistry and process with creators in the woodburning and pyrography community. I'm your host, Justine Fedde. I was introduced to woodburning in 2020, and I haven't put down my burner since. My guest today is Bee Locke of BeeSymmetry Designs. She is an incredible artist. Her designs feature intricate, nature-inspired, symmetric designs, as you might expect from someone with a business name like BeeSymmetry. She creates designs on all types of surfaces for all types of uses, including basswood, cherry, and leather, for uses like wall hangings, necklaces, and earrings. On top of that, she's a leading teacher in the woodburning community. Her book, Creative Woodburning, is one of the best books that I've found, featuring different burning techniques for realistic designs. Beyond her book, she's been creating courses for a while now and recently launched the Creative Woodburning School with tutorials on a plethora of topics, including her latest course, Craft Your Biz. Originally a 12-week paced course for anyone who wanted to grow their handmade hobby into the creative career of their dreams, now the recordings are available for purchase so you can take the class at your own pace. I'll include an affiliate link down in the show notes, and for you listeners of the podcast, you can get 10% off any course at the Creative Woodburning School through the end of 2023 with code Peak Pyro. That's PEAKPYRO, all caps. And now, without further ado, let's hear from the incredible Bee Locke. And today on the podcast, we have Bee Locke from BeeSymmetry. Hi, Bee. How's it going today?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
Doing well. Where are you coming here from today?
I am in Western North Carolina, and it's a beautiful spring day.
That's amazing. Things going pretty well out your way?
Yeah, keeping busy as usual. So there's always lots to do, but it's going very well.
And you are online at BeeSymmetry, and people can find you online on your website at BeeSymmetry.com.
That is correct. Yeah, BeeSymmetry.com is really my hub. So anything else that I offer, you can find through there.
And one of the big things you're offering right now is your classes. You've started a school.
Yes. So the Creative Woodburning School is where I offer all of my educational materials that are all woodburning related for the most part. And yeah, so online courses have been a new addition the past couple of years, and it's been really fun to create some of that online educational content for the people who don't live nearby and want to learn about the art of woodburning. So.
Are you the only teacher at the Creative Woodburning School?
Yeah, it's all me.
It's all you. And Creative Woodburning is the name of your book, so that's kind of all in line with what you do.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah. Cool. So for listeners of the podcast, you guys can get 10% off any of Bee's classes using the code Peak Pyro. That's all capitals PEAKPYRO. And I will include an affiliate link in the show notes for you to get into any of her classes if you're interested in that. So what are you working on right now? Is the school the main project that you've got going?
I've usually got kind of multiple tendrils and different things. But right now, my biggest project is another big course that I've been creating all spring long. It's called Craft Your Biz. And it's through the Creative Woodburning School. And it's not actually specifically woodburning related, but it's a course for anyone who has a handmade hobby, such as woodburning, and they want to turn that into a business. And so it takes the person through the entire process of how to do that, because I've been through that process. So that's been a 12-week thing. I've been releasing one module every week, and I've got a bunch of students in there, and so that's been really awesome. But it's been a big undertaking,
Yeah,
and we
that's
have
a lot
3
of
weeks
work,
left.
weekly stuff.
Yeah, it is. So I've been doing that, and just, some of the behind the scenes things of running my business and keeping up with a few wholesale orders, and gearing up for some craft shows coming up in the spring and summer. So that's really all my main projects right now.
That that's a lot. That's a lot you've got going on.
It's plenty. Yep.
For sure. Are there some of those that you find you enjoy spending more time on than others?
Um, well, the good thing about having so many different aspects to my business is that I never get bored, because there's always like different things to be working on. Um, but I do obviously enjoy the creative process, and actually being able to make art, which is the whole reason why we're here in the first place.
Yep.
So that is very enjoyable. It's the best part of my business, but I really love teaching too. So it's been really fun to get more into the teaching aspect. And I've been doing some in-person classes as well this year. So um, yeah, it's fun
I've
getting to
heard those
interact
ones
with.
are a lot of fun to do.
They are. Yeah, and it's so interesting because, whether you're selling in person or teaching in person, it's always different. It's always a learning opportunity. And every time you do that, you take some lessons away that you apply to the next time that you do it. And so it just always feels like a really rich, um, really valuable way to spend time, and then you can get better at it. And so I enjoy that whole learning process as well.
Are there any learning experiences that kind of come to the front of your mind that you're like, oh, everyone should know this one?
uh that's an interesting question. I guess as far as like selling in person, every craft show is different, and you really learn your target audience so intimately. And this is something that we've gone over in Craft Your Biz, all about in-person selling, craft show selling, and all the intricacies involved in that, and setting up for that, preparing for that, and then the whole customer service aspect, because it's completely different than selling online. um, but yeah, you get that real-time feedback from people, and you get to observe them, reacting live to your work. And there's a vulnerability involved with
Sure.
showing people what you've created, and then seeing whether they like it or whether they want to buy it, and give up their hard-earned money for it, and the things that they say and stuff. So anyway, it's just great. I love that, and I always encourage everyone to, definitely do some in-person shows to get that feedback experience.
That sounds like fun to see those reactions live. It's not just somebody like sending in that request online to buy a single piece, but you get to kind of watch the whole process there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it actually helps you sell your products online, because you'll get to see what the impulse buy items are, what things sell at what price points, what things sell the most frequently. You can really lean into like your best sellers and stuff, and you find that out by selling at a craft show where you have like a wide variety of different individuals who are just like walking by, and you have to entice them by
By having cool
your
pieces
booth
and
presentation. So
yeah,
yeah.
that's fun. That's interesting. So let's take a step back real quick. When did you start wood burning, or maybe start on your artistic journey?
Yeah, artistic journey, I guess, has been my whole life. Um, so, it's that cliche of always being into art when I was a kid, always wanted to be an artist. And that was never really a path that was encouraged by all of the practical people in my life. And so anyway, it was definitely a journey to get to where I am now, where I have a full-time art career. But I learned about wood burning in 2009. So that was when I first started. And I started with just like an old janky soldering iron and burned on like some plywood or something that you shouldn't be burning on.
Yep. I think so many of us have started there.
Yeah, so I definitely understand all of the beginners out there who are trying to make their way through figuring out how to get great results with your pyrography work. But yeah, I just fell in love with it instantly. I had always been into drawing, so drawing was my thing, and it just translates so easily to your heated drawing utensils. So it was just a really natural progression to pyrography. And then once I realized how versatile the art form was and how many like different types of things you could make with it, I really, really focused on it because I love making functional artwork and I love making wearable items.
Are you wearing
So
your own work right now?
I
Your
am,
earrings?
as
Yes.
you can tell, yeah. these are my like big fancy ones that I kept for myself. But
Yes.
yeah,
They're
so
beautiful.
yeah, I love making all different sorts of intricate wearable pieces. I find that to be really fun.
So earrings, and you've made some really fantastic necklaces, and
Thanks.
what other wearables do you tend to make?
Yeah, earrings and necklaces are the main ones, but then I also do leather work. So I would burn on leather. So I do a lot of cuffs and things like that.
So
And
when you burn on leather, is that a higher heat or a lower heat? How does that work technically?
it's lower heat because leather is softer and more sensitive to the heat. So you definitely want to turn your temperature down and go slower and be a little bit more gentle with the leather. But yeah, it's really fun to burn on leather.
Sounds cool.
Hmm.
And does that kind of make some different textures and techniques and styles on the leather versus the wood?
I do sort of tailor my designs to the material that I'm working with. And I feel like this is just sort of, like an automated, intuitive process. I think anyone that, like whether you're working with something that's really light in color or something that's really dark in color, that's going to change what you're able to put on it and what's going to look good on it. And the same thing is with leather. Also with leather, you can't get the quality of detail and shading that you can get on wood. You can still get some nice looking shading and detail, but it's just different. And bolder designs, I think, tend to look nicer on the leather. And then if you seal leather, which is recommended to help it retain its flexibility and everything,
Sure.
moisture resistance and stuff, because you want it to last. Then it's recommended to condition the leather, which significantly darkens the base color of the leather. So that's always something to keep in mind as well.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. So you were saying you've gotten into the wearable and the leather and the wearable jewelry. What other stuff are you working on?
Oh, I do all kinds of stuff. I do a lot of kitchenwares, so I do a lot of spoons and spatulas and rolling pins and cutting boards and
That definitely functional
towels.
stuff.
Yes, those are big sellers because people can can use them and they like kitchen decor, and it's really a no-brainer because you can justify that purchase of something that you could use, and it's not just something pretty to look at. But I
Definitely.
also love making fine art as well. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Definitely can justify that. But your fine art,
Yes.
go on.
Oh, just that, the thing that is also fun about wood burning is that it's not just a craft and it's not just for making like rustic stuff, like some people think, oh, it's just rustic signs and cabin decor. And it's like, it can be, sure, you can totally do that if that's your thing, but it's so much more than that, and it can go so much farther than that. So I like trying to push the boundaries of what you can do with pyrography by making big fine art pieces as well. And I really don't have as much time to put into this as I would like, which is unfortunate because I have so many ideas of like big pieces that I want to do, but that's not my bread and butter, so I have to prioritize other things. But making fine art is so much fun, and doing mixed media pieces and, combining, paint and other mediums and stuff with wood burning, and then just making like beautiful wall art. It shows people that pyrography is a true art form, and you can really do so much with it.
It is, and you can, and yeah, you've got definitely some really nice fine art pieces. I'm flipping through your book, and there's so many beautiful pieces in there.
Thank you.
And I know that I've gone back to your book more than once. I got it for Christmas a couple years ago, and every time I'm looking for textures, I've gone back to your book and pulled it out and looked at fur and feathers and ways of doing stuff there.
Nice. I love hearing that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So what kind of stuff inspires your art? I mean, if it's a commission piece or something that's a little bit more defined, but when you're doing your fine art, where do you get your ideas for those?
As many artists will say, the natural world. Usually a lot of my pieces are based on nature, plants, flowers, birds, natural patterns, bold colors, um, intricate designs, a lot of interconnectedness, and high contrast. So yeah, that's sort of where I end up going. Like if I have no direction and I just start drawing, it's inevitably going to be some sort of naturey mandala looking thing. And that's just, it just is what it is. So, but I do a lot of pieces with birds. I love birds, and flowers. So you can't go wrong.
You can't go wrong. There's so many different types and species and varieties, and
Oh yeah.
you could only burn birds, and you could be busy for years.
I know. Yeah. I would like to do more, like series of intricate fine art that is just, things that I love, that I want to do. And I think in time, those things will happen.
So are you able to get like one passion project a month, or do you end up spending most of your time on commissions and kind of those bread and butter ones?
Yeah, definitely far less than once a month. I'm lucky if like once a year I do a fine art piece, because it's very time consuming to do one of those. I mean, spend a lot of hours on it. And yeah, I also used to do a lot of commissions and custom work, but I actually have sort of weaned myself off of that for the most part as well. I do some custom work from time to time, if it's something that feels really special or it's really in my wheelhouse or something. But for the most part, just because custom work is more draining, if I'm just being honest, because it's taking someone else's creative vision. I have a lot of pressure. I put a lot of pressure on myself to live up to what their expectation could be. So, and I've always had, very good positive feedback from my, customers who have ordered custom work and whatnot. But it's because I spend so much creative energy thinking about the design and planning it and mapping it out. And then I can't really, after that's done, transfer that to another project or reuse it in any way. And so I'm trying now to protect my precious creative energy a little bit more and find ways of sort of reusing the designs that I come up with and yeah, just make my efforts go farther. So that's sort of where I'm at, in that sort of energy optimization zone. And I also have so much else going on in my life. I have 2 children and we live on a farm. And so, and we have other businesses. And so it's like, I just have so much going on. I wish that I could clone myself and be 5 people, and then I could do all the things that I want to do. But
I
I just learned
completely
that I
understand that.
can't. Yeah.
Yeah, when there's all the things, but if you slow down even for a minute, you're like, I need something else to do.
Yeah, or like, okay, here's my to-do list. It's the to-do list of 15 people. So what can I squeeze into this like 7-minute, space between this and this or whatever? And yeah, so I'm trying to practice what I preach and give myself a little bit more permission to have more balance.
Give that space and grace to yourself, which is probably the hardest thing to do, is to give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So when you're burning and when you're doing your projects, what kind of wood do you prefer to burn on? We talked a little bit about how you do leather work, but when you're on wood, what do you like to do?
It will come as no surprise that basswood is obviously the MVP of the wood world. So, anyone who is in North America will be able to access basswood very easily from your hobby stores. Canada, they have a little bit harder of a time, I've heard. And elsewhere, you'll need to ship it in. But it's so great. I love the smoothness of it. It's light in color, so you can really make your designs pop from the background, which is really fun, especially if you like to do lots of little details or subtle shading or anything that involves realistic wood burning. So yeah, definitely basswood. But there's so many other great woods.
Definitely.
So many. I mean, I don't know. Poplar. I love maple. Different kinds of maple. Cherry is beautiful. Yeah, there's a lot of beautiful woods out there, including some exotic woods. Also, Baltic birch, is like that Northern European sort of wood that is massively available everywhere. So that's a good one too, using birch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where, so you were saying hobby shops, and is there anywhere else that specifically that you source wood from?
Oh, I've gotten wood from so many different places. I mean, just keep your eyes out, yeah, hobby stores are great.
Do you do a lot of the like pick it up off the side of the road?
No, I haven't picked any up off the side of the road. I have gotten some from like sawmills and other like woodworkers. So if you know a woodworker, oh my gosh, be their friend, because they can hook you up. Because you wanna have nice, like, thoroughly dried wood. And the thing about getting it at a craft store is it's been kiln dried, so you know that you're not gonna get something that's gonna split the second you finish burning it. So that is definitely something to consider. But yeah, hobby store craft wood, if it's basswood, not the super thin, what is that stuff?
The plywood,
MDF.
the MDF.
And yeah, they have like yucky plywood, and
or
they've
like
got
oftentimes
balsa wood.
there's a pine that's really easy to get a hold of, but
Yes,
not
pine.
great to burn on.
Agree. Yeah, I definitely avoid pine like the plague because of the resin, um, the sap that's in the wood. So yeah, I don't like to use that stuff either. But you can find good basswood in the craft stores, and then there's also wood distributors online. Like you can find wood all over the place. So, and then I always keep my eyes out, because sometimes you'll be in either like the hardware store or the grocery store, or I don't know, random places, and then there will just be like this awesome product, and you're like, oh, I'll try that. So just try things. That's what I always say.
Yeah. And then what burner are you using?
I am always using my trusty razor tip. I have every model of razor tip. um, but right now my go-to is this razor tip SE, because it's great. It's a great tool. That's why I'm using it. But I have it because me and several other artists got to collaborate on the packaging, and it comes with a book inside of it with step-by-step projects. And so I got to create a project for the
Oh,
Razor Tip
fun.
SE kit. So they sent me one, and I have been using it every day, and it's great. But all Razor Tip tools are wonderful. And I have lots of other tools as well. When I teach classes, I usually use the Walnut Hollow Creative Woodburner tool, because
And
I can't afford to have
that's the wire nib one, or is that
it is
the solid tip one?
it's the wire nib with the like tweezer tool that removes those.
Yes.
And I like it because it has 4 different tip shapes, and so it's a good variety when you're introducing students to the different tips and the techniques that go along with them, and how you can use them differently, and get different results basically on your wood with those. So I prefer that, rather than one of the kind of less sophisticated ones, I would say, just because for beginners it can be easier to kind of associate the different tips.
Sure. Yeah.
Way.
It's definitely a good tool to learn on, and it's the one that I'm still using as my daily driver.
You use the Walnut Hollow
The Creative Woodburner. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I'm impressed with it. I mean, I feel like it's a good happy medium, like it's not too simplistic, and it's also not super expensive, and so it's like a happy medium, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So you teach classes with that one instead of, a lot of people will do it with like the Versatool, the economic version of it.
Right. I just wanted something a little bit nicer, and I know that people love the Versatool and get awesome
Oh,
results with the
absolutely.
Versatool. I'm totally not bashing the Versatool
No.
at all, because like I said, I have used everything, including a janky soldering iron. So yeah, I know that you can get really good results with something that is more simple. But for classes, I wanted something that had like a unit.
And it's so
And
easy to like change the nibs in and out on that one versus having to
exactly, it
wait for it
saves
to cool down.
exactly. Yeah, because usually like if you're teaching a class, you're on a limited timetable to like get your student oriented to the machine and then do your project and everything. And so you don't have a lot of extra time. So I needed something that was going to be easy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
When you're burning, do you have, well, you said you like to do some colors. What kind of colors and supplies do you use for that?
Yeah. Well, you have my book, so you know that I love India inks, and also watercolor pencils. Those are my top 2. And there's a lot of other great coloring options, just plain watercolors, or you can get those liquid watercolor tubes. Those are nice. You can use acrylics. There's so many things, different markers too. You can use markers only if you have like deep burned lines that are gonna stop it from bleeding everywhere. But that's true with all of the liquids. But yeah, India inks are just wonderful because they're light fast, so they're not gonna fade in UV light. So yeah, I love using those, and they're just very vibrant. So they're vibrant, they soak into the wood really quickly, and then they're permanent. And so I can't say enough good things about those. And then watercolor pencils, I really enjoy using them as well. Just a different technique. So, I like using the dry technique that I teach in my book, which is, coloring with the watercolor pencils completely dry first and getting everything like layered up and everything. And then taking a wet paintbrush and painting water over top of it. And then it all blends together and becomes more saturated in color. So that is the way that I like to do it. Yeah, but using color on wood is wonderful. And anybody who's a purist who wants to just wood burn and never experience the joy of adding color to the wood burning, that's your own personal choice.
Yep. There, and people make great art that way. People make great art with the colors. It's, everybody
Yeah.
finds their style.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you're burning, what kind of safety items are you using?
Great question. I always use a mask on my face that has a carbon filter. I also use a wood burning buddy, which is a desktop carbon filter fan that sucks the smoke through a carbon filter and like blows the remaining stuff away from you. And Razor Tip also sells one. It's the Razor Mini. It's smaller than the wood burning buddy. I have both, so I use them differently. So yeah, and then ventilation. Here in my studio, I'm able to open up a door and multiple windows, so that's great. And using a box fan helps as well. So kind of a combination of all of those things. In the winter, it's definitely harder when I can't open
You
the
don't want to
windows.
open the doors because it gets a little cold out in North Carolina.
It does. Yes, it does.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've talked a little bit about your style, but do you want to talk any more about what kind of style of pieces you like to burn?
I mean,
We talked about it a little bit, you like the nature, and then it's
yeah.
somewhat, you've got shading in there, so it's somewhat realistic, but it's not fully realism.
No, yeah, I like to sort of combine realistic looking things with like bold patterns. And also I sort of like to do like a technicolor sort of thing on top of realistic looking stuff. So I sort of like, if you have a photograph and you mess with the settings where you can like turn the saturation really up, and then all of a sudden you've got like red and it's orange, and then
Yeah.
I like to do that a little bit and sort of really play up the saturation of things. Yeah, and then I like to put some sort of like dreamscapey weirdness in there too sometimes. I can't really explain it
Yeah.
any more than
Well,
that.
and if anyone wants to check out Bee's style, make sure you go follow her on Instagram at BeeSymmetry. Then you can see it for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what kind of online presence do you have? We've talked a little bit about you've got the school, you're on Instagram. How much of your workday kind of are you spending on social media or online presence?
Yeah. I go back and forth. It really depends on what I'm focusing on in my business at that point, because I feel like there's seasons where I will spend a lot of time really amping up my social media presence or my email marketing or things like that. Usually that is because I am advertising for something that I'm doing or creating awareness around something cool that's going on. Um, so it's like during a busy period, I don't know, it goes back and forth. There's seasons. It really depends. I do spend a significant amount of time, I would say, on online stuff. Whether that's managing my website, managing my Etsy shop, managing um, my email and social media, and creating content for online courses that I'm doing. I mean, I do a lot, but a lot of it is also behind the scenes. And so my forward facing presence, I would say, is less than my daily time expenditure. um, but yeah, I'm on Instagram. That's definitely my largest social media platform. And I'm on Pinterest as well. And I do have a YouTube channel that I haven't put as much energy into that I want to. I have a ton of ideas for YouTube videos. I just don't have the time right this moment to record
Understandable.
those.
Does
Yeah.
some of those end up in the school then? Some of the thing, or is there a different kind of ideas that you'd want to put in the school versus on your YouTube channel?
They're definitely linked as far as the content goes and like what I want to share. Right now, because I've been so focused on creating Craft Your Biz right now, and last year I was really busy creating my wood burning master course, um, and I just like put so much time and energy into those things. Um, I haven't done as much of the free content, but I definitely know that there's people out there who are um, not finding out about the other things that I offer because I'm not offering as much free content. So I need to find, um, more space for that. And I definitely will. That's one of my 2023 goals is to be more present on YouTube specifically, and just share more about wood burning and different techniques and, having a handmade business and things like that that are so great, and I love talking about them, and I'm super passionate about it, as you can tell. So yeah, so I will be there more in the future.
Yeah, and so your online courses and stuff, are those do those end up being mostly recorded and then watched later, or has there been, like with this Craft Your Biz once a week thing, has there been a live element to that?
It hasn't been live like the way that you and I are speaking to each other right now, but um, it's been one module per week has been released. So I do have some students who I pre-sold the course, and I said, hey, this course is starting. I'll release one module each week. And if you're interested, you can get in on a discount if you pre-buy the course, which is how I pre-sold it to my handful of students that I have. And then some of them are following along every week. And some of them just bought it because they're not ready right now, but they're going to be soon. And once the 12 weeks is over, like every time I publish a module, then it's just there permanently. So
Sure.
they can go in and access it and have lifetime and like look back at any of the modules that have been published so far and then revisit those anytime that they need. And there's a lot of like worksheets and guides and checklists and things like that that help you go through the process of crafting your biz. So it's very helpful. And then there's 3 more modules, so there's 3 more weeks to go. And so by the end of May, it will be fully published. And then after that, it will just be an evergreen offer that I have.
That's cool.
Yep.
And I'm sure lots of this is covered in your course, so feel free to like be like, and just go check out my course. But when you're pricing stuff, what kind of stuff goes into your ideas behind pricing your art, pricing your courses? What How do you come up with that? Because that's always such a difficult question to answer.
It is. Yeah. We totally just did an entire module on pricing your artwork. And I can't go through the whole thing right now because it's like probably 90 minutes worth of pricing strategies and stuff. But yeah, so much can go into it. There's not only, your normal formulas that you have that are like, okay, what are your costs of your materials and what's your hourly rate and your labor cost, and then what's your markup, and are you doing wholesale or are you doing retail, and what are your competitors or niche mates charging, like what else is out there in that price range for similar goods and what is selling well for other people and stuff. So you've got all this like market analysis stuff that you can go into, but also there's the customer psychology piece that is so interesting because human beings just naturally equate money and value. So if you're underpricing your work, people are going to not think that it's as valuable, even though it may be completely stunning and amazing. So when you underprice your work, and that is far more often handmade sellers are underpricing and being afraid to charge what they really should be in order to have a profitable business. But when you undercharge, you're basically training your customers to expect less or not value the
What you've
work
been
as
doing,
much.
sure.
And it's just such a fine line because you'll have people like at a craft show again, like if you go there and you've got your items set out and your prices, some people will see that item and say, oh, that's $75. That's too much. And other people will say, that's only $75. You should be charging way more for that. And you gotta listen to what people say, but also listen to yourself and not like think that every single person is correct when they give you feedback, because someone
They can't
saying
all be.
that's too much, it's like, okay, like you can't afford it. But that doesn't mean that my work isn't worth that amount. And it's just, it's hard because as artists and as makers of our art, a lot of ourselves goes into it. It's our creativity, it's our designs, it's from our minds, it's from our hearts, it's an offering from ourselves. And so it can feel like we're being rejected if someone doesn't like fully embrace what we're offering. So that can be really hard, but you have to like detach yourself a little bit from that and look at it from some different angles, when you're pricing your work, and know that if someone is unable to buy your work or chooses not to, that's okay. Somebody else will. So that's what I had to say, I guess, about pricing. If you have any further questions, I can go into it more. But yeah, I could talk about pricing a lot. I have a lot of really great pricing strategies and actual formulas and reverse engineering your pricing and everything in my Craft Your Biz course. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, well, and we'll leave it there for now. If people if people want more, they can come check out your course.
Sweet.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's take a real quick break here, and we'll be right back. And we're back with Bee Locke of BeeSymmetry. So Bee, we were talking a little bit earlier about how you were balancing and managing so many different aspects of your business and your family. And then what do you do to take care of yourself in all of that?
What a loaded question.
It's always so interesting how everybody...
It is. Yeah, it is. It is honestly a daily practice to go with the flow of so many things. I try and find as much joy in all of the craziness as possible. I also try to be organized because the more chaotic things are, the less effective I am. So I take care of myself by creating order amidst the swirling storm of life.
So does that look like making spreadsheets, or does that look like dividing up your day and saying, okay, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there?
A little bit of everything. Like I have systems for pretty much everything. I like I like there to be space. And I also try and like do things in the easiest sort of way if I can. Like there's a lot of things that I do in my daily life that are really challenging or that like push me beyond my comfort zone or whatever. So anytime that I can, for example, if I'm drawing designs or if I'm brainstorming and doing a lot of like mental thinking or whatever, I'll go outside. And because I have my youngest daughter with me every day, so we're, she's my little sidekick. So we go outside and like swing in the hammock together while I'm thinking about stuff and writing things on a notebook. And I don't know, I just you just find ways of doing it all, because it's like otherwise I do spend a lot of time feeling stressed. I feel like that's just normal. But I also zoom out and try to have a wider perspective about where I am in life as being a parent of two kids who are, one's very young, one's fairly young, and all that entails, and you know, running my business and all these other things that are going on. It's definitely a lot to manage. So I try not to let myself get too lost in the shuffle. I try to allow myself space to have other creative things that I do that are not monetized, that I just do purely for enjoyment. I spend time outside in nature. We live on a large piece of property that is just gorgeous. And so we have water and we've got woods and we've got big open pastures. And so I can go exploring if I want to. And yeah, I drink tea,
And sometimes that's,
things.
You get your one cup of tea and that is the only time that you get.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, if I have to sit here and do this and I've got deadlines, well, I'm gonna try and bring some of that positive like sensory stuff into it, and listen for the birds or have some music and have some tea, and allow myself to have some goodness in that moment as well.
That's amazing. I love that thought of finding the goodness in the moment. And are you able to, are there, we all have good days and we all have bad days. And on those bad days, are you able to find that goodness? Do you have any strategies or ways that you look for it?
Yeah, I mean, I am pretty determined as a person, like, and I feel like my discipline level, like, I guess in the past decade, since I was younger and childless to now being, having a 9-year-old, um, you just like learn uh, these ways of putting your foot in front of the other one, And sometimes it is hard, and sometimes you don't want to, and this and that and the other thing, and you can make excuses and stuff. And taking breaks is totally valid, and you need to have that.
Absolutely.
But uh, I tend to, more often than not, I tend to over overwork is not the right word that I'm looking for, but like I'm more likely to do all the things even if I am not quite feeling it versus the opposite of that. So for
Yeah.
me, the practice isn't showing up for the things, it's stepping back. So um everyone's got their own like give and take with it. But I would just say, yeah, giving yourself allotted time slots where you're really focusing on something, and then taking a breath and having space, that really helps. If you're fighting against your schedule or your workload or whatever, just finding ways to condense the tasks into their own container so that you're not in a constant state of I need to do this, I need to do this, and then never stepping out of that. And whatever that container looks like for you, whether it's like a space, whether it's a point in time, whether you're setting a timer for yourself or driving to an office or whatever it is. I feel like whatever you got to do to get through that is good.
Yeah, that's some great ideas, and great to be able to delineate your time and your thoughts, and okay, right now this is my time to do this, and I'm not going to worry about any of the rest of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to switch gears a little bit here and play our favorite game here on Peak Pyrography.
Okay.
And that is the deserted island.
All right.
So as a wood burner, as an artist, you are dropped on a deserted island and you're left there with one wood burner, one type of wood, one nib, and then one other extra item for pyrography. What what are the items you're left there with?
I'm just laughing because if I'm on a deserted island, I'm like not concerned about wood burning.
That's true. That's true.
Okay. Okay. Well, obviously my razor tip, probably the SSD10 is my machine. My best nib. Oh, geez. Maybe a writing tip. Maybe I have several that I really love, so it's hard to pick one. Favorite wood, basswood, and what's the fourth one?
Some other item for pyrography, or some other item that you take with you.
Oh, I'd probably want a notebook full of empty tracing paper that I could draw on. So that when I get off the deserted island, all the cool designs that I thought of while I was sitting there waiting to be rescued, I could then
Perfect. Yes. Yes, that's amazing. And then I like to have a moment here where we talk about the community, and we've mentioned how supportive and how great it is, and and I know that it's incredibly difficult to just narrow it down to three. But if you could give three accounts that you think that that listeners should go check out, should follow, could gain some value from, who would be three accounts for you?
Yeah. Okay, so I did put some thought into these three accounts because I was like, oh man, who's gonna be listening to this? And I love all of the pyrographers out there in the social media world, and I encourage everyone to go follow all the pyros. But I have 3 other non-pyrography accounts that are just wonderful, that I have learned so much from and or been super inspired by. So I wanted to share those. The first one is Nicole's Neuroscience. And her bio is using principles of neuroplasticity to teach mindset change. And her work is like life-changing for, I don't know, understanding yourself better, understanding human behavior and your brain and how it works and how to change things about it, and just understand people better. I feel like it encourages empathy. So go check that out.
That's a good one. That just
Do you
kind
know
of
that one?
I don't know her, but rewiring your brain and rethinking about different, just from a different perspective, or the science side of it, definitely sounds like it could be beneficial.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great account. Okay. The other account, number 2, is Clarabelle Talks. I'll have to. Do you want me to spell that, or I can send it to you?
Yeah, I'll get it from you after, and I'll put a link in the show notes.
Cool. She creates these hilarious skits that illuminate stereotypes and flip microaggressions. So a lot of her skits have to do with racial inequality, or like gender stereotypes and stuff. And so I don't know, I just feel like the work she's doing is so needed. And like every time I watch one of her videos, I have a light bulb aha moment go off in my brain. Like, that is absurd, because she flips things, she flips around like the normal, like if it's a man and woman type
Yeah.
skit, flip it. And then the things that she says, it's like, that's crazy. Why is
Why is it acceptable one way and not
socially,
the
why are
other?
we like this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just learned so much from her. Um, so I recommend that one. And the last one is an oil painter who is creating the most whimsical fantasy fairy tale oil paintings with like the utmost skill. And she posts all these beautiful videos of her techniques. And it's Annie Stegg. Um, and her oil paintings are inspired by mythology and folklore. And so she does like a lot of like gnomes and like old, I don't know, like it's cottagecore, but like in a really classy, like gorgeous way. So go check her out too and be super inspired. And I just feel like, if you're inspired and nourished in your mind and in your heart and visually, then you can create better pyrography.
That's great, and I those are some awesome accounts. And like I said, I'll link them down in the show notes so everybody can go check them out too. Yeah, the I can't wait to go check those ones out.
I think that anyone who sees them will enjoy them.
Yeah. And then can you give us, and you've given us so much already, but is there like one tip or trick that you think is kind of a top tip for you?
A top tip for wood burners who are starting out,
Sure.
or
Yeah.
don't limit yourself by thinking that whatever you see that other people are doing is the only thing that you can do with your artwork. So I just encourage people to think outside the box. Don't limit yourself. So just believe in your unique vision as an artist and trust yourself. And if other people are telling you that your work isn't this enough or this enough, check in with yourself first before you believe it.
That is a fantastic tip. And I'm looking at the next question already and tripping over my tongue. I was going to say, what are the big things that you've got coming up? Are there journeys that we can follow you on?
Yeah, so I did mention that I do plan to be doing some YouTube videos this year. So if anyone wants to follow me on YouTube, then you can get notified.
Go click that like and subscribe button for Bee, and
yeah, that'd be great. And other than that, I'm going to be finishing up with Craft Your Biz very soon, and that will be available for the public to enroll anytime. My woodburning master course is also fantastic. That one is strictly woodburning related, and there's tons of techniques in there, exercises that you can do, tons of education where I explain everything that you need to know to get really great at woodburning, and that is always available, and I usually do one big sale per year on that. Last year was around Christmas time, so I will probably be doing that this year as well, so people could look out for that if that's something that you want to check out. And of course, the 10% off coupon for Peak Pyro applies to either of those courses and any of the other educational content that I will be releasing on the Creative Woodburning School for the rest of this year.
Awesome. So hopefully people can go and check that out and check you out. And thanks so much for coming on. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been great.
Peak Pyrography is produced by Fedde Studios and Justine Fedde. Our producer and sound engineer is Kevin Fedde. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. You can share comments on today's podcast or suggestions for the future on Instagram at Peak Pyro Podcast or via email at peakpyrography@gmail.com. That's peakpyrography@gmail.com. Until next time, keep creating. I can't wait to see what you make next.